The shrill wail of police sirens shattered the quiet morning as two patrol cars screeched through the towering iron gates of the Ashford estate. Before the mansion's staff could even understand what was happening, armed officers rushed across the perfectly trimmed lawn toward the gardens. "That's him!" a voice shouted. Ethan Brooks froze, the hedge trimmer slipping from his hands. Dirt clung to his gloves as he looked around in confusion. "What's going on?" An officer grabbed his arm. "Ethan Brooks, you're under arrest for stealing property belonging to the Ashford family." "What?" Ethan gasped. "There has to be a mistake." Another officer snapped handcuffs around his wrists. "I didn't steal anything. Please, you've got the wrong person." The front doors of the mansion burst open. "No," Clara Ashford screamed as she ran barefoot down the marble steps. "Stop! He's innocent!" She pushed through the gathered servants until she reached Ethan, tears already streaming down her face. "Dad, tell them," she cried, turning toward her father. "You know Ethan would never steal." Leonard Ashford stood at the top of the steps, dressed in an expensive charcoal suit. His expression was cold, unreadable. "The police are simply doing their job," he said without emotion. "You know he's innocent." Clara shouted. Leonard's voice became firmer. "I said enough." Ethan looked into Clara's tear-filled eyes and forced a small smile. "It's okay," he whispered. "Don't fight them." "No," Clara sobbed. "I'm not letting them take you." She grabbed Ethan's arm, but an officer gently pulled her away. "I'm sorry, miss." As Ethan was led toward the police car, he turned back one last time. "I love you," he mouthed silently. Clara's knees gave way. The police car door slammed shut. As it drove through the gates, Clara collapsed onto the driveway, like crying harder than she ever had in her life. How had everything fallen apart so quickly? Just 6 months earlier, Clara Ashford hated mornings in the mansion, not because they were noisy, but because they were painfully quiet. Every breakfast felt like another business meeting. Leonard sat at one end of the table, reading financial reports, while Clara picked at her food. "You'll be attending the Whitmore Charity Gala tonight," Leonard said without looking up. "I already told you I don't want to. You don't have a choice. I'm tired of pretending." Leonard folded his newspaper. "You're an Ashford. Your feelings come after your responsibilities." Clara sighed. Ever since her mother died years earlier, her father had buried himself in business. He bought companies, he built skyscrapers, he donated millions to charities, yet somehow he had forgotten how to be a father. After breakfast, Clara escaped into the estate grounds. The gardens were the only place where she could breathe. She wandered along the stone paths until she noticed someone kneeling beside a row of dying roses. A young man carefully loosened the soil around each flower before watering them. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing strong arms covered with dirt. He hummed softly while working, completely unaware someone was watching. Curious, Clara stepped closer. "You know those roses are supposed to be dead." The young man looked up, startled. His warm brown eyes met hers before he quickly stood. "I'm sorry, Miss Ashford." "You don't have to apologize. I didn't realize you were here." Clara smiled. "So, why are you watering flowers everyone else has given up on?" He glanced at the roses. "My mother always says that just because something looks broken doesn't mean it can't bloom again." Clara looked at the flowers. "Do you really believe that?" "I do." "What if everyone else has already given up?" He smiled gently. "Then all it needs is one person who hasn't." For reasons she couldn't explain, those words stayed with her. "I'm Ethan," he said. "I know." He laughed awkwardly. "Of course you do. And you're the new gardener." "Yes. My mother has worked here for 15 years. You mean Rose?" He nodded proudly. "She's the strongest person I know." Clara smiled. "I've seen her around." Ethan looked embarrassed. "I should probably get back to work." "You don't talk much, do you?" "I've learned rich people usually don't want conversations with gardeners." Clara frowned. "Maybe you've been talking to the wrong rich people." For the first time that morning, Ethan laughed. The sound surprised both of them. Inside the mansion, Harold Grant, the head butler, watched the conversation through the dining room window. His eyes narrowed. Later that afternoon, Rose Brooks found Ethan replacing flowers near the fountain. "You were talking to Miss Clara." Ethan sighed. "I knew someone would notice." Rose looked worried. "This house has eyes everywhere. We were just talking. That's how trouble begins." Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. "She's nothing like the others." Rose grabbed his hand. Listen to me carefully. Her voice trembled. We work here. They own this place. There is a line that must never be crossed. I know. No, you don't. Rose lowered her voice even more. I've worked for wealthy families my entire life. When something goes wrong, they never blame their own. They blame people like us. Ethan nodded. I understand. Promise me. I promise. But promises are easy to make. Keeping them is much harder. That evening, Clara couldn't stop thinking about Ethan's words. All it needs is one person who hasn't. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to her like she was simply another human being instead of the daughter of one of the richest men in the country. Days turned into weeks. Every morning, Clara found another excuse to walk through the gardens. Sometimes she asked about flowers. Sometimes she asked about trees. Sometimes she asked questions she already knew the answers to, simply to hear Ethan talk. So, she asked one afternoon, did those roses survive? Ethan grinned. You tell me. She turned toward the flower bed, her eyes widened. The once lifeless bushes were now covered in bright red blossoms. They're beautiful. They just needed patience. Clara looked at him. Maybe people do too. Their eyes met. Neither of them looked away. If you're enjoying the story so far, take a second to subscribe, like this video, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. You won't want to miss what happens next. Neither Clara nor Ethan noticed Harold standing behind a nearby oak tree, watching every smile, every glance, every second they spent together. He quietly pulled out his phone, took a photograph of them smiling at each other, and whispered with a smug grin, "This is going to make Mr. Ashford very interested." Harold slipped his phone back into his pocket, but the photograph burned in his mind. He had served Leonard Ashford for over 20 years, and in all that time he believed one thing above everything else. The Ashford name had to remain untarnished. A billionaire's daughter could not be seen smiling at a gardener. That evening, Harold knocked on the door of Leonard's private study. Come in. Leonard didn't look up from the documents spread across his desk. What is it, Harold? I believe there's something you should see. Harold handed him the phone. Leonard stared at the photograph. Clara was smiling, not the polite smile she wore at charity dinners, not the fake smile she gave business partners, a genuine smile, and she was looking at Ethan. Leonard's jaw tightened. How long has this been going on? I'm not entirely sure, sir. I've noticed them speaking often over the past few weeks. Leonard placed the phone on his desk. Keep watching them. Yes, sir. And don't let Clara suspect anything. Harold nodded. As you wish. The next morning, Clara walked toward the gardens carrying 2 cups of coffee. She spotted Ethan pruning a hedge. I brought you something. Ethan looked around nervously. You shouldn't. Why? If someone sees us, she smiled, they'll think I'm being kind. They'll think I'm forgetting my place. Clara frowned. Do you really think I care about social status? I don't. Then what's stopping you? Ethan hesitated before answering. Your father. Clara laughed softly. My father controls businesses. He tries to control everything. Exactly. She handed him one of the cups. For 5 minutes. Forget who I am. He accepted it. Thank you. They sat beneath a large oak tree overlooking the gardens. For the first time, they spoke about themselves instead of flowers. I wanted to become an architect, Ethan admitted. What happened? My father died when I was 16. I'm sorry. My mother couldn't pay for school, so I started working. Clara lowered her eyes. I've never had to worry about money. I know, but I've worried about everything else. Ethan looked at her. What do you mean? Everyone already planned my future before I was old enough to have dreams. What would you choose if no one could tell you what to do? She smiled. A small house, he laughed. Really? With a huge garden. And no bodyguards, no reporters, no business dinners. She looked at him. Just peace. Ethan couldn't stop smiling. You'd get bored. I don't think I would. For a brief moment, the difference between them disappeared. They weren't a billionaire's daughter and a gardener. They were simply 2 young people sharing dreams. Days passed. Their conversations became longer. Their laughter became easier. Neither realized they were slowly falling in love. One rainy afternoon, Clara found Ethan repairing a broken wooden bench inside the greenhouse. You work even when it rains? The flowers don't stop growing. She picked up a paintbrush. Teach me. You'll ruin your clothes. So? They're expensive. I didn't ask about my clothes. Ethan laughed. All right. He showed her how to sand the wood before painting it. She accidentally splashed white paint across his shirt. Her eyes widened. Oh no! Ethan looked down before bursting into laughter. You attacked me. It was an accident. I'm not convinced. She dipped the brush into the paint again. Oh? You think this is funny? She flicked another drop onto his sleeve. He stared at her. You started a war. Within seconds, they were both laughing, trying to dodge tiny splashes of paint. Stop! Clara laughed. You first. I'm serious. So am I. She slipped on the wet floor. Before she could fall, Ethan caught her. Silence filled the greenhouse. Their faces were only inches apart. Neither moved, neither spoke. Clara's heart raced. So, Ethan whispered. So. Without thinking, Clara leaned forward and kissed him. It lasted only a few seconds. When they pulled apart, both looked stunned. I'm sorry, Clara whispered. Don't be. I've wanted to do that for weeks. She smiled through happy tears. So have I. Outside the greenhouse, Harold watched everything. His face darkened. This has gone too far. That evening, Rose found Ethan sitting outside their small cottage behind the servants' quarters. He couldn't stop smiling. Rose immediately knew why. You kissed her. Ethan froze. How did you know? A mother always knows. He looked away. I love her. Rose closed her eyes. Those were the words she had prayed never to hear. Ethan, I know what you're going to say. No, you don't. She sat beside him. When I first came to work here, Clara was only a little girl. I watched her grow up. She's kind. She's respectful. But kindness doesn't change the world she belongs to. I don't care about money. I'm not talking about money. She held his face. I'm talking about power. Power destroys people. It crushes anyone who stands in its way. I won't leave her. What if Mr. Ashford makes you? He can't. Rose's voice trembled. You have no idea what powerful people are capable of. The following evening, Leonard hosted an extravagant charity gala at the mansion. Politicians, business executives, celebrities, the estate sparkled with lights. Clara stood beside her father, greeting guests she didn't even know. Smile, Leonard whispered. I'm smiling. Smile like you mean it. She forced another fake grin. Across the garden, Ethan quietly trimmed hedges before the guests arrived. Their eyes met for only a second. It was enough. Later that night, Clara slipped away from the ballroom. She found Ethan near the fountain. I thought you couldn't escape. I couldn't stay. You look beautiful. She laughed softly, and you look like you've been working all day. I have. I wish I could leave all of this. You can. No, I can't. Before Ethan could answer, footsteps echoed nearby. They quickly stepped apart. Nathaniel Cross approached, holding 2 glasses of juice. There you are, Clara. She forced a smile. Nathaniel, I've been looking everywhere for you. He glanced at Ethan. You must be the gardener. Ethan Brooks, sir. Nathaniel nodded without interest before turning back to Clara. Your father wants to introduce us to a few investors. I'm coming. As Nathaniel walked away, he placed a possessive hand on Clara's back. Ethan watched them disappear into the mansion. For the first time, he felt he truly didn't belong in her world. Meanwhile, Leonard had been watching from the balcony above. He had seen everything, the stolen glances, the secret meeting, the pain on Ethan's face. His worst fears were true. His daughter wasn't simply fascinated by the gardener. She was in love with him. Leonard slowly turned toward Harold. Bring Ethan Brooks to my study tomorrow morning. Harold nodded. And make sure, Leonard's eyes turned cold, that we speak alone. If you're wondering what Leonard is planning, you're not alone. Hit the like button if you believe love should never be judged by social status, and tell us in the comments. Do you think Ethan should walk into that meeting or run while he still can? The next morning, Ethan stood outside the heavy wooden doors of Leonard Ashford's study. Taking a deep breath, he knocked. Come in. Ethan stepped inside. Leonard didn't offer him a seat. Instead, he stood by the window, his back turned. So, Leonard said quietly, you're the young man who thinks he belongs beside my daughter. The room fell silent. Ethan knew that whatever happened next would change both of their lives forever. Leonard slowly turned to face Ethan, his expression as hard as stone. So, he said, folding his hands behind his back, tell me, what exactly do you want from my daughter? Ethan stood tall despite the fear knotting in his stomach. I don't want your money, sir. Leonard let out a cold laugh. That's what they all say. I'm telling you the truth. The truth? Leonard stepped closer. The truth is that you're a gardener. Your mother is my maid. My daughter was born into privilege. A Hesfrite. You honestly expect me to believe this relationship isn't about wealth? It isn't. Leonard opened a drawer and placed a thick envelope on the desk. There's $50,000 in here. Ethan looked at it but didn't move. Take it. No. Leave this estate today. Never speak to Clara again, and this money is yours. Ethan slowly shook his head. I love your daughter. Leonard's eyes darkened. Love doesn't pay bills. No, money can't buy love either. For the first time in years, someone had dared challenge Leonard Ashford. Get out. I'll leave, sir. Ethan turned toward the door. But I'm not leaving Clara. The moment the door closed behind him, Leonard slammed his fist onto the desk. He'll regret that. A week later, the Ashford mansion buzzed with preparations for another lavish event. Guests wandered through the estate while expensive jewelry from the Ashford family collection was displayed inside a secured glass cabinet. Among the pieces was the priceless Ashford emerald necklace. Harold glanced around before quietly unlocking the cabinet. He slipped the necklace into his jacket. No one noticed. Hours later, the necklace is gone. Panic spread through the mansion. Leonard immediately ordered the gates locked. No one leaves until it's found. Detective Marcus Reed arrived with several officers. We'll need to search everyone's quarters. Servants exchanged frightened looks. Rose squeezed Ethan's hand. You've done nothing wrong. I know. One room after another was searched. Nothing. Then the officers entered Ethan's room. Only seconds later, Detective! An officer emerged, holding the emerald necklace. We found it under his mattress. The room fell silent. Rose gasped. No. Ethan stared in disbelief. I've never seen that necklace before. Harold folded his arms. It appears the evidence says otherwise. You planted it, Ethan shouted. Harold looked offended. Mind your accusations. I didn't steal anything. Clara pushed through the crowd. This is impossible. She grabbed the detective's arm. Ethan would never do this. Marcus Reed looked genuinely conflicted. Miss Ashford, the necklace was recovered from his room. Someone put it there. Leonard stepped forward. Clara, no, enough. You know he's innocent. I said enough. Officers placed handcuffs on Ethan once again. Rose threw herself at Leonard's feet. Please, sir, my son is innocent. We've served your family faithfully for 15 years. Leonard didn't even look at her. Take him away. As Ethan was led toward the police car, Clara ran after him. I won't give up. I'll prove you're innocent. Ethan managed a faint smile. I know you will. The car door slammed shut. This time, Clara couldn't stop it. Despite Clara hiring lawyers, every appeal failed. The necklace, the witness statements, Harold's carefully rehearsed testimony, everything pointed toward Ethan. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. The very next day, Leonard sent Clara overseas under the excuse of completing her graduate studies. She knew the real reason, to keep her away from Ethan. For 5 long years, she carried nothing but guilt. She wrote letters Ethan never received. She called, only to learn he had been transferred. Every birthday, she whispered his name, wondering if he still believed in her. 5 years later, the prison gates opened. Ethan stepped outside carrying a single worn duffel bag. The world had moved on without him. Finding work proved nearly impossible. Every employer saw only one thing: convicted thief. Eventually, a city park hired him to maintain its gardens. Flowers never judged anyone. People did. One afternoon, while planting fresh roses, Ethan heard a familiar voice. They're beautiful. He looked up. Clara stood only a few feet away. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Clara ran into his arms. I'm so sorry. He held her tightly. You kept your promise. I never stopped looking for the truth, and I never stopped loving you. Meanwhile, Rose had been assigned to help clean an abandoned storage building on the Ashford estate before it was renovated. As she sorted through dusty boxes, she discovered an old surveillance recorder labeled Garden Wing Backup. Do not discard curious. She carried it to a local technician. Minutes later, grainy footage appeared on the monitor. Rose's heart nearly stopped. The recording showed Harold entering the display room. He stole the emerald necklace. Later, the footage showed him sneaking into Ethan's room and hiding it beneath the mattress. Rose burst into tears. My son. The technician looked stunned. You need to take this to the police. Detective Marcus Reed watched the footage 3 times, then 4. He finally looked up. This changes everything. The case was immediately reopened. News spread across the country. During further investigation, another shocking discovery emerged. A deleted security report revealed Leonard had secretly watched the original footage years earlier. Instead of exposing Harold, he ordered it destroyed. He had allowed an innocent man to go to prison, all to separate his daughter from the gardener he believed was beneath her. Clara stormed into her father's study. "You knew." Leonard remained silent. "You knew Ethan was innocent." "I did what I believed was necessary." "You destroyed his life." "I protected this family." "You protected your pride." "I protected your future." "My future?" Clara shouted through tears. "My future was stolen the day you sent an innocent man to prison." Leonard finally lowered his head. For the first time, he had no defense. Months later, the courtroom was filled with reporters. The judge reviewed the new evidence. "The conviction against Ethan Brooks is hereby overturned. This court declares Mr. Brooks innocent of all charges." Tears streamed down Ethan's face. Rose hugged her son tightly. Clara smiled through tears from the front row. Justice had finally arrived. Harold was arrested for theft, perjury, and fabricating evidence. Leonard faced charges related to obstruction of justice and destroying evidence. His business empire suffered overnight. Investors abandoned him. His reputation collapsed. Outside the courthouse, Leonard approached Clara one final time. "I've rewritten my will." She looked at him without emotion. "Everything I own will belong to you. If you come home." Clara glanced toward Ethan, then back at her father. "I'd rather build an honest life with someone who has nothing than inherit billions built on lies." She walked away, without looking back. Months later, Ethan fulfilled the dream he had once shared beneath the old oak tree. He opened his own landscape design company. Clara stood beside him from the very beginning. Together, they created a foundation that offered scholarships and vocational training to children from low-income families, ensuring that no young person would lose their future simply because of where they were born. The same rose garden where they had first met was transformed into a public memorial dedicated to truth, forgiveness, and second chances. Every spring, hundreds of roses bloomed there, a reminder that even after the harshest storms, hope can bloom again. If this story touched your heart, don't leave without subscribing to the channel, giving this video a thumbs up, and sharing it with someone who believes true love is worth fighting for. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. If you were Clara, would you have given up $1 billion inheritance to clear the name of the person you loved? Because sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't wealth. It's the courage to choose truth over power, love over pride, and justice over silence.